Hello, this is Chad Riffle, Instructional Consultant with the K-12 Educational Technology Association, bringing you a tutorial video on how to create item bank assessments in Illuminate DnA. Your first step is to log into Illuminate DnA. From the dashboard page, on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the word Assessments, and when you click on it, it'll bring up a drop-down menu. Look through the drop-down menu for the item bank, and then click on Create Item Bank Assessment. If this is the first time you've ever created an item bank assessment, it'll ask you to log in. Go ahead and create an account. You'll only have to log in once, and then from that moment forward, it'll permanently be linked to your Illuminate account. The next screen is going to ask you what kind of content you'd like to create. You really have four choices. You can create an assessment in standard mode, which allows you to choose each individual question. You can go quick mode, which will automatically select randomly generated questions for you. You can create an item, or you can create a passage. So for this tutorial, we're going to create a standard mode and click Next. The next couple screens are going to walk you through the steps to creating an assessment. And there's really 6 steps. The first is your basic information. You're going to give it a name. You're going to give it all the other details. But when you name it, this is the name you're going to use to search for the assessment later. So the naming convention is very important. For this tutorial, I'll just name it 2018-19 West Shore ESD Writing Practice Assessment Grade 6. I'm not going to fill any of the other information out at this point, and I'm just going to click Save. And then I'm going to go to Step 2. Step 2 is going to ask you for the standards that you would like to have questions for on your assessment. So the first drop-down menu is the type of standard. In Illuminate, we've got our Michigan-specific standards at the bottom of the list, and Common Core State Academic Standards has the most items. So for this tutorial, we'll choose English Language Arts, and we'll have Grade 6 English Language Arts. What that's going to do is create your drop-down menu here, and then on the right are the standards you've selected. Now I've already selected these 3 standards. I'm going to choose one more writing standard. We'll do text types and purpose, and then I'm going to click Next. Step 3 is going to give you the option to create filters on your items. Now this is the most important step here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go into your item banks and select which item banks to pull questions from. Really, you should have 3 item banks selected. My items, which would be the ones that you create. Inspect, which are the professionally generated ones that are similar to MSTEP. And if you're doing social studies, this past K-12 social studies will give you social studies questions. Then you just click Update Filter. The next option down is your item types. And this is where you can choose those tech-enhanced questions. So if you're looking to do a constructed response, you can select that, update your filter, and then what it's going to do is it's only going to give you options where the question type is a constructed response question. There are many different item types, and you can actually see, you can scroll down here, there's some drag and drops. Math questions generally have a lot more of these drag and drops, classifying, ordering, and then writing usually has the highlighting, selectable text, that kind of stuff. So the next one down allows you to select if it's going to have a passage that the kids have to read before they answer the question or not. So if you want to make sure they have to read a passage and answer questions about a passage, you'll just turn that on and say Update Filters. And now you'll see I've got too many filters on. So what I've done is I've filtered out all of the questions for these standards. So if I go back in here and I choose constructive response and multiple choice, let's pick a few of these and see what we get. And so now I have 5 items and 3 passages. And if I scroll down, I can see the different questions and the passages that go along with them. The next option down allows you to choose the attributes of the individual items. So you can choose the passage level, you can choose Webb's depth of knowledge for the questioning style. You can really filter down. I mean, you can get down into a lot of details. Just remember that if you put too many filters on, though, what's going to happen is you won't have any options to choose from. The authors allows you, if you found an author you like, to select that author for the question. Keywords are nice if you have some vocabulary terms you're teaching that you want to make sure that you're addressing in the question. Passage title is nice if you found a passage that you really like and you want to have multiple questions for the same passage. You can click on that. You can type in the title here and it'll only show questions for that passage. And the final option is your passage or item ID number. So if you find, like this passage here, Fires Help a Forest, if I really like this, I can take this master ID number 2560 and at a later date choose passage master ID 2560 and update the filter, and it'll bring up the passage with the 8 questions that go along with that passage. So very helpful. The top option, selected standards, allows you to filter the questions so that you can hit just one of the standards specifically. So if I unselect all and I say, you know what, I really want to hammer this standard right here, select it and update my filter, and then it'll only show me questions. So there are 70 questions that go along with the standard that I chose up here, W6.1. Now once you have all your filters set, the next step is to come down and kind of review the questions, find the ones you like, and then click add. When you add a standard, a lot of times it'll bring up this adding item missing standard, and what that's telling me is that that question addresses more than one standard, and one of the standards is not in my list of standards on the right hand side. So you can just add the item in the standard, and then on the right hand side what it does is it says, oh, look at this, that one question addressed 3 of my standards right here. It's a multiple choice item type, and if it had a passage, the title of the passage would be up here on the top. So I have one item or one question, 6 standards, 0 passages, and I have one question that addresses 4 of the 4 main standards that I chose at the beginning. So you choose a couple questions, however many you want to add them in, and as I'm adding them, you can see these numbers are changing, so that maybe this 6.1D, I only have one question addressing that. So I might come back up here and say 6.1D, I want more questions for that one. Update my filter, and then once I update the filter, it only shows me questions that are addressing W6.1D, and I can add those questions. So once you have these numbers looking, how you want them in your item analysis, you can click next. And the next step is to review the questions. This is where you can remove items that you've selected. So this little X up here lets me get rid of one if I don't like it. And I can go through, check them all over. Yep, looks good. And then step 5 allows you to set up, if you were going to give this paper pencil, you would want to make sure this red warning type doesn't come up. This red warning is telling me that some of the questions I chose only really work if they take this assessment online. But if I had chose all questions that could be paper pencil, this is where you can choose the font and the spacing and the style, the formatting of how your assessment prints. So, and then you just would click generate, and it would give you your print file that you could print. And then I'm going to click next because I'm not planning on doing this as a paper pencil. This is probably my favorite step right here. What this is telling me is that my data analysis, I have 3 questions that are of medium difficulty. My depth of knowledge is 2 for all 3 of the questions I have. It's all 3 of the questions are analyzing questions. So this is a pretty hefty assessment. This is going to cause those kids to really think. And then it goes through smarter balance claims and targets, and then item types at the bottom here tells you the types of questions. If you had, let's say you had a manual or some kind of a document that you wanted to add to this assessment, you could add it right here. And then the last step is to publish. Once you publish the assessment, at this point this assessment I can give it, but it's giving me another chance to kind of look things over before I leave the item bank, a review, and then a chance to print the paper copy. But again, if you get this red warning, you're not going to want to give this paper pencil because it's going to print funny. So once it's published, it's got the green check mark there. I'm going to click on Return to Illuminate, and my assessment should be in my list of assessments. It says Item Bank here, and here's the assessment I just created, ready for the students to take the assessment. Alright, now that you know how to create an item bank assessment, check out these other two videos on how to administer using a quick code or how to administer using the Home Connect.